In September of 2019, Naughty Dog posted a tweet in an attempt to reassure its multiplayer community that something big was in development. In September of 2019, that felt good to hear just post a sudden cancellation of the multiplayer mode meant to be attached to The Last of Us Part 2. If you would have told me that 2.5 years later we would still know next to nothing about that project outside of some leaks, I would question your sanity. Naughty Dog's output has always been slow, but defining. You wait a long time in between their main numbered projects, but come out on the other end with best in industry work. But as the work gets better and better, the wait in between projects tends to get a little longer. Naughty Dog still has solid output given how technically advanced their games are. The longest we've gone between releases was close to 3 years between Uncharted: The Lost Legacy and The Last of Us Part 2. 2022 looks to be Naughty Dog's busiest year yet, not only in studio releases but also in new utilization of their franchises, and it's starting off with their highest selling IP. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves leads the charge into 2022 with remasters of the PlayStation 4's generation of Uncharted games, Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy. Both games have no serious need for remaster in the visuals department, however frame rate enhancements are very welcomed. Uncharted 4 will be one of the first games on PlayStation 5 to feature in 120 FPS mode. It will only reach 1080 while achieving that frame rate, but it will be interesting to see how that feels. Uncharted is at a crossroads as an IP. We've seen nothing from it since 2017's The Lost Legacy, and people don't seem to realize that that's a good thing. Between Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy, the IP could not have been left to rest for a while in a better place. The conclusion to Uncharted 4 was about as good of a way to conclude such a beloved narrative as it could have been, which felt especially fitting considering Uncharted was the game that birthed how so many narrative-driven games are designed today. And Lost Legacy brought back a beloved character in the lighter narrative Uncharted 4 had to divert from to get the job done. It left you in a place where any of Uncharted's large cast of characters could be brought back under the right circumstances. Except Drake. Leave him out of it. Lost Legacy was made quickly and somehow stood tall next to any of the other entries, but if Uncharted were to keep that pace, that special nature would quickly fade. Annualization breaks up what makes stories special in larger character-driven games. You need to have time to sit with what's happened and think about where things can go. It creates a deeper connection to the characters, and that's where real impact can happen. We will likely see Uncharted come back this console generation. Whether that comes from Naughty Dog or another studio created from within Sony is anyone's guess. There was a point in which Sony was willing to give Bend a chance to make another one after Golden Abyss, but it's probably for the better that didn't work out considering the high bar that is expected when you hear the word Uncharted. I'm not sure Sony Bend is ready for that kind of pressure on a AAA stage. Its return will surely come in the next 6 years or so, but in the meantime, Sony's ready to try something new with the Uncharted movie due to debut in February, which could surely fast-track development of a new game if it draws in enough new eyes. It could be a good gauge of if there's hunger for more. The Uncharted movie has had a long road to get made, and there's still a crowd that doesn't want it to begin with. At the end of the day, as Uncharted fans, it's only a positive. Either the movie is mediocre and we get to have a little fun with it because we can see what they tried to do, or it's good and attracts more people to the games, and that's always a good thing. Getting people into something you love, which in turn creates an environment in which more of it gets made. The Uncharted movie is once again bringing to light something that has been happening a lot in recent years. When a beloved game gets remade, turned into a movie, or is used in any way outside of being a direct sequel, people start to get unrealistic expectations. Uncharted as a series has from start to finish had a great narrative and even better closure. Not many game franchises have accomplished that at such a high level. Anything we get outside of that would just be a bonus. I don't think people realize how lucky we are that it consistently panned out so well. The fact of the matter is that Uncharted was always primed to make for a great blockbuster action movie, but people get too caught up in forcing the next actor against the previous one. Nolan North did an amazing job in his role as Nathan Drake, and he was written and played in a very specific way. It's okay if Tom Holland's Drake is not a complete copy and paste job. This movie is not canon. It's normal for these studios to want to take their own creative liberties in any small differences to Nathan Drake's character. If they tried too hard to mimic the games to a T, Uncharted fans would have a much harder time finding enjoyment in this, because the story they would have tried to mimic would have already been done better in the scope of the games. We already have our version of Uncharted, and it's content complete. Allow whoever touches it next to put their own spin on it. This movie isn't gearing up for an Oscars campaign. They just want to make a fun action movie. But Uncharted isn't the only Naughty Dog IP hitting the screen outside of its video game format this year. The Last of Us coming to HBO is a bigger dictator of what Naughty Dog's 2022 looks like than you would think. The project was teased in March of 2020 and then ordered to Series 8 months later, with casting announcements flooding in periodically along the way. A lot is currently happening with this show, and it looks like every other project relating to the IP are revolving around it. When The Last of Us comes to HBO, it's going to attract a massive and entirely new wave of fans, which is Naughty Dog's springboard to launch the other two Last of Us related projects coming later this year, The Last of Us Remake and Factions 2, creating a massive self-servicing wave of growth and marketing for both Naughty Dog and HBO. It's a great marketing plan, even if it might have made us have to wait longer for Factions 2. It really makes you wonder what Naughty Dog's future plans are. While I would rather wait until the end of this console cycle or even early in the next one, them creating this much buzz around The Last of Us as an IP only gives them every reason to get the third one out as soon as possible. Even if it wasn't their planned follow-up game to Part 2, they aren't going to want to waste all of that attention on only the multiplayer and remake. And besides, that HBO show's gonna need a third season. The first season of the show looks to tackle the entire first game, so they will have to cross an interesting bridge should it go beyond a couple of seasons. Surely the second game could be turned into multiple seasons, but they would at that rate still outpace the production of the third game and potentially have to decide if they divert and go with an entirely original story beyond the ending of The Last of Us Part 2. And while these new fans wait for another season, they need somewhere to go to fill that void. The Last of Us Remake really only makes sense from the standpoint of creating a more even flow between Part 1 and 2 technologically. While I still think Part 1 holds up perfectly fine in 2022, it seems Naughty Dog wants new players to have a more fluid experience going from one to the next. And if The Witcher is any indication, the release of the show, should it take off, will explode the sales of the game, and they'll be ready to go with a shiny new coat of paint and reworked gameplay. But why stop there? After getting people invested at such a high level, the cherry on top is a large multiplayer experience. And if that experience is getting updated regularly, it fills every possible gap a Last of Us fan could possibly find during a wait for the second season of the show, or what's even further away, The Last of Us Part 3, which already has a plot outline anyway. Factions 2 is long in development and will be this year's most interesting product release for Naughty Dog. They're no stranger to multiplayer experiences, but they've never done anything in the space at this scale. There are a lot of places they can go wrong. We're in a weird time when it comes to how money is made via monetization of multiplayer games, and Naughty Dog is currently still hiring the economy designer for this game. Surely you can expect the now standard battle pass as well as an item shop, but the bigger question mark is the approaching inclusion of NFTs in video games, which seems to still be in its infancy. All you can really do is hope that the remaining development time of Factions 2 misses this wave, which you hope is a temporary one. For all games. Other than the numerous leaks and small bits of info over the years, what they are crafting over there seems to be a big deal. And thankfully, Naughty Dog always has one goal in mind, which is leading the industry in many areas of game development, and that bodes well for Factions 2. This year is going to be Naughty Dog's busiest yet in terms of releasing content themselves and their overall IP utilization. The studio is making a lot of content and expanding greatly to do it. The content output is changing and lots of new avenues are being explored. Where the studio structure goes from here is unknown to the public. The next 11 months will be telling. 2022 will be Naughty Dog's most defining year yet.